Larry Wayne Litchford, my beloved childhood buddy. Today we are here to honor a devoted man of God, my childhood buddy, Larry Wayne Litchford. I would like to share a little of the Larry Wayne I knew when we were very young. I met Larry Wayne when my brother and I first arrived at Nashville's Tennessee Preparatory School, or TPS, in October 1961. TPS was a state school for children of broken homes. Since I was 8 and my brother 7, we were assigned beds in the Griggs building, the residence for the little boys aged 6 to 10. Larry Wayne, who had recently turned 9, slept in the Griggs building. When we first entered, my brother and I were gobsmacked. In the hallway, more than 40 boys lined up for dinner, stiff at attention, motionless and erect. They stood in pairs in ascending order. All wore the same bluish overalls and heavy brown brogans. Not a single boy met our eyes or smiled. They stood silent, like traumatized little prisoners. An icy chill ran down my spine as I realized I, too, was becoming an inmate. Tenny and Paul Griggs ruled the little boys' building with a firm hand. They were petty, cruel, and abusive. So what was it like for Larry Wayne? Terrifying. I could tell you hours of stories, and every one, Larry Wayne would be my hero. On Saturday nights and Sunday mornings, all TPS students attended movies and church services in the Cole Auditorium. The Griggses laid down the law. They issued strict orders that no matter what the little boys were not to talk, turn around, or even wave at siblings. When Doris, Larry Wayne's older sister, entered the auditorium and tried to wave to him, he turned away and frowned. Of course, Doris was confused, but the Griggs' rules left Larry Wayne emotionally paralyzed. His fear of taking a beating trumped a friendly wave to his sister. And the punishment for this and other such minor infractions? Sometimes Mrs. Griggs would slap Larry Wayne repeatedly about his face until he almost cried, and he vowed never to cry in front of her. At other times, she whipped him with a holy paddle, or Mr. Griggs with a leather belt. The blisters, bruises, and welts lasted days. For any trivial offense, Mrs. Griggs would condemn Larry Wayne to standing in the hall. She commanded him to stand inside a 12-inch square on 1 foot until she decided otherwise. Larry Wayne once stood in the hall in the square on 1 foot for an entire month. That is simply hard for us to fathom today, but I witnessed it. Adding salt to the wounds, Mr. Griggs and son Paul slipped up from behind and kneed him, simply to be cruel. This happened on several occasions, yet he never complained, and his example inspired all of us to keep our dignity even as the Griggs tried to break us. In the dining room, Mr. Griggs and the family sat at a separate table with a bowl of rubber balls. While eating lunch, Larry Wayne rested his elbow on the dining table. Immediately, Mr. Griggs hurled a rubber ball that clocked him on the side of his head. It was total pandemonium. Mr. Griggs almost laughed as the ball shattered plates and glasses into the laps of the terrified boys. As we had come to expect, Larry Wayne simply cleaned up the mess and assured us he was just fine. For the Griggses, the most unpardonable sin was wetting the bed. Larry Wayne, like the rest of us frightened and anxious little boys, wet the bed several times. Mrs. Griggs blistered him in his wet underwear with her holy paddle. Then she ordered him to the walk of shame, head hung low, along with his soiled sheets, a quarter-mile to the laundry, past several boys' dormitories, past the high school building, and past the administration building. I can tell you from personal experience, the humiliation left him shaking for hours. Under the Griggs' domination, there was no safe childhood, no safe space. We lived in constant fear, anxiety, and dread. As Larry Wayne later told me, there were so many rules it was hard for me to remember them, and that became a fear of its own. He once lamented, "I tried all I knew to stay out of Mrs. Griggs' way. I didn't always succeed." Well, none of us little boys did. Besides trying to avoid the Griggses and their random wrath, how did Larry Wayne manage to survive? Like a happy, caring, and courageous saint. No matter what he felt inside, Larry Wayne always made his fellow inmates believe he was happy. He loved to relax and play. In the Griggs' backyard, he played marbles, hopscotch, and Red Rover. He was strong, fast, and fun, and always wore an enthusiastic smile. Other boys gathered around him and were eager to follow his example. One of his favorite backyard games was called Pitch Up and Smear. Since nobody had a football, a boy would toss high in the air any ball that was available. Larry Wayne would catch the ball and run as fast as he could, while the other boys followed, trying to tackle or smear him. After being smeared, some little boys got angry and threatened to fight. Not Larry Wayne. He always popped right up, laughing and smiling, and then jumped happily back into the fracas. He was, so to speak, a boy's boy. The Griggs building housed 3 sleeping dormitories, and Larry Wayne's caring and courage became apparent when he became the boy in charge of the first dormitory. He and I slept only one bed up between us. As the boy in charge, Larry Wayne became accountable to the malicious Mrs. Griggs for the behavior of his dormitory boys. That is hardly staying out of the way of Mrs. Griggs. Typical courage. His boy in charge duties included keeping the peace and quiet, making sure we brushed our teeth and made our beds, and assigning chores and ensuring we completed them. After nightly showers, Larry Wayne inspected us and checked us for dirt everywhere. He always made these invasive inspections with a friendly smile and an encouraging touch. No attitude, but kindness. Yet he once wrote that the hardest part of his job was taking the blame from Mrs. Griggs when something was amiss. Larry Wayne was understanding and compassionate. He tenderly dealt with the youngest boys and offered only assurance. One little boy had never cleaned a urinal and almost threw up trying. Larry Wayne rescued him. He asked the boy to clean the sinks instead, and our good-hearted Christian stepped up again, scrubbing the urinal. For Larry Wayne, this was not an unusual gesture. I ask you, where else can you find a 9-year-old boy modeling such a caring Christian heart under such trying circumstances? While he lived in the Griggs building, Larry Wayne's favorite hobbies included kite flying, scout camp, and swimming. Each year we eagerly awaited March. That was when the Griggses allowed us to buy kites and fly them from the front yard. I remember one year, Larry Wayne flew a kite with 4 rolls of string. Nobody had ever done anything like that. He was so excited that he broke the rules and flew the kite beyond the backyard and the small woods. When a gust of wind broke the string, the kite fell past the industrial complex more than a quarter of a mile away. I always thought of the kite as a metaphor for Larry Wayne's spirit. Like his Christian faith, it extended beyond the personal pain of his Little Griggs prison. Each summer in June, we little boys attended scout camp for 2 weeks. The Nashville Rotary Club sponsored the camp located outside of Franklin. Without scout camp, we would have sweated in summer school or hoed and picked vegetables on the campus farm. Scout camp made us feel free. We could be boys again. We hiked miles into the woods. We camped out. We fished. We canoed and boated and caught tadpoles and salamanders. We learned to swim. And yes, the counselors duped Larry Wayne and the rest of us little rubes into a mythical night of snipe hunting. One winter day at TPS, Coach Birdwell was lifeguarding us at the old gym swimming pool. He sprayed his water hose at everybody. All of a sudden, he blew his whistle, threw down the hose, and dove deep into the pool. He stayed on the bottom for a while. Eventually, after what seemed like 2 lifetimes, he swam up, holding the lifeless body of our hero, Larry Wayne. We could only sit in shock, trembling, and crying. We found out later that a suction cup had violently trapped his left foot. To free the foot, Coach Birdwell broke it. After the rescue, 2 older boys, John Hammond and Ronnie Fox, administered CPR. We watched in horror as they pounded his chest and did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Of course, now you know he came back to life, or, if I may, rose from the dead. The shock of Larry Wayne's near death walloped me. I had never known anyone who died, and suddenly one of my buddies had almost passed before my very eyes. It was hard to process, but his near death made dying real to me. In shock, I obsessed for days about what Larry Wayne might have missed had he passed away that day. Well, more than a half a century has transpired since that horrifying incident. Seeing you today, I no longer wonder about Larry Wayne's life after that near-death experience. I see before me the beautiful and rich life he created with you who care for him, his loving wife Pamela, his dear children Michael, Kevin, Daniel, and Rachel, his grandchildren, his nephews and nieces, his sisters Joyce, Doris, and Sandra, and brother Frank, and many, many others. I am overcome with joy to witness how his life after near death overflowed with love and happiness and meaning, and always with Jesus and God and family. Lord God, bless Larry Wayne Litchford, thou good and faithful servant, and rest in peace, good buddy. You are forever beloved and missed by many. Amen.
Amen. Completely unaware of it, that had happened to Wayne. He never spoke of it to me. But I remember what God told Paul: I must show you many things that you must suffer for my name's sake. And it made him stronger. Wayne was, to me, like a hero. Let me tell you something about me, and it'll fit in a little better. When I went to school, I hated it. I wanted to be in the creek. I wanted to be fishing or hunting or something like that outside. To me, it was absolutely boring. And I wish it hadn't been, but I'm just trying to be truthful with you. That's who I was. And Wayne sort of set about halfway back in a couple of my classes. And he was the kind of guy that was always listening to the teacher. He was the kind of guy you could say, what does this mean? And he'd explain it to you. I mean, he helped me more than any teacher ever did. Because we were on the same level. We were the same age. I respected him, he respected me. And really, he loved me, and I just didn't realize it at the time. But his love was everlasting. You know, there's so much about him that reminds me of the Lord. But Wayne was somebody I could go to and trust. If I had a problem or needed to talk to somebody, I couldn't just talk to anybody because of the way I was. And I could talk to Wayne, and he wouldn't run all over school blabbing it or anything like that. He was a good, honest friend to have. And after we got out of school, I always cared a lot about him because he was just a super nice guy. You know, before I even knew he was a Christian. And he and I got together. I think Michael was about the size of most people's house cat. And he was tiny. And I remember seeing him. Pam brought him by when we were working. And I thought, golly, he's so tiny. And that was 46 years ago, I think. And I want to tell you something. We didn't stay in contact like good friends think you should. But our friendship never dwindled. I mean, I always loved him. He loved me. I talked to him on the phone a few times, and I wish I could have got out here and spent some more time with him weeks ago. But I know the day is coming when I'll get to spend eternity with Wayne. I was working with Wayne and painting, and I didn't know anything about painting at the time. I was in my 20s, and maybe not even that. And he started teaching me how to stain and teaching me how to trim, and we worked together for a while, and it was a lot of fun. And one day he said, "Are you saved?" And I said, "I guess." You know, I'd been to a church with Mom and Dad when I was a little boy, and I remember having that feeling. You know that feeling you get when the Holy Spirit's dealing with you, and they give that invitation, and you can't do anything but go. You know what I'm talking about? So I'd happened to me a few times, but nobody, I guess I was too young or whatever, nobody ever really sat down and explained the gospel to me. And I never really understood. And he said, we got in a conversation about Jesus. He said, "You know who Jesus is?" I said, "Well, sure, I know he's God's son." And he said, "Is that all you know?" I said, "Well, that's who he is, isn't it?" He said, "No, not quite." He said, "He's God." I said, "No way, man. Don't even. He's God's son. He's not God." Wayne had a little Bible in his back pocket. He backed his up with truth. He pulled that little thing out and said, "In the beginning was the Word." He said, "Yeah, you know who the Word is." "Yeah, it's Jesus." And the Word was with God. See, I told you. And the Word was